What's going on, everybody? My name is Lawrence, aka Law, and this is The Catch, basically where I'm going to be giving you guys tips and tricks to help you guys get dubs this fantasy football season, which is going to be coming up right around the corner. And in this video, I'm going to be breaking down my 2019 PPR, which is points per reception, quarterback rankings for the start of training camp. Let's go ahead and get right into it. All right, guys, again, thank y'all so much for coming by and checking out another video. Again, I'm going to be breaking down some of my favorite quarterbacks that I like going in to this season. Like I said, primarily going to be quarterbacks that I like going in to the start of training camps. So this is kind of barring injury, those type of things do happen. So fingers crossed that nothing like that happens, because A, I don't like it for the players, and B, I don't like it because it hurts my fantasy football team. So I'm going to be jumping into this. I'm going to be breaking these quarterbacks down into tiers. I've obviously be starting at tier 1 all the way down to tier 5. Some tiers are going to be a little bit shorter than others, and you'll be able to see why once I really get into it. So let's go ahead and get started. My number one quarterback, similar to many people out there, is going to be the MVP from last season. And the gentleman that I'm talking about is Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes last year did absolutely phenomenal. He was an absolute steal if you were able to get your hands on him last season. Being a quarterback under Andy Reid has in the past been able to produce quarterbacks that succeed really well in his system. Quarterbacks like Donovan McNabb. He came into Kansas City and actually made Alex Smith a very relevant fantasy football player. And he really took Patrick Mahomes under his wing, showed him the way, and really has him on the right track. And that offense I really like going into this year. Of course, the news about Tyreek Hill not actually being suspended this season just really ups his stock for me even more. Patrick, him and Patrick Mahomes last year absolutely hit it off really well. Tyreek Hill ended up finishing among the top of the wide receivers last year also. But then you also have Travis Kelce there. Sammy Watkins is still fairly relevant, not necessarily in fantasy football. I mean, he can be if you're talking about deeper leagues. But just the whole offense overall is a very successful offense. In the passing last year, amongst every NFL football team, the Kansas City Chiefs actually placed third in the entire NFL last season. So that just kind of goes to show the ability that this offense has under Andy Reid, especially with Patrick Mahomes, kind of steering the wheel there. So I really like Patrick Mahomes again this year. He was a quarterback that finished with 417 fantasy football points last year. If you take 100 of those points away, Patrick Mahomes actually still finishes within the top 5. However, Patrick Mahomes is going really early in the draft. We're talking 3rd round, 4th round. If you're picking with some guys that are familiar with how to play fantasy football and things like that, but going fairly early, and for good reason. He's going to be a quarterback that's going to be able to provide for your fantasy football team. But to be completely honest with you, he's going a little bit earlier than I would like. But at the same time, he's going to produce for you, and there's really no doubt about that. But getting a little bit further into it here, and let me backtrack a little bit. Patrick Mahomes is in the tier 1. And when I say in the tier 1, I mean he is the tier 1. This guy is pretty much on a fantasy football planet of his own, if I could put that into the correct word. So if that makes sense, he is by far the number 1. Nobody else is really close to him. And this is just going based off of my opinion. I love Patrick Mahomes this year. Am I going to have any shares of him? Probably not. Really just depending on how the draft is kind of unfolding, things like that. I might be subject to go a little bit aggressive. However, I'm the type of guy that likes to wait for quarterbacks at the middle part, maybe double-digit rounds, or later part, 8th, 9th round, things like that. So Patrick Mahomes going a little bit earlier for me, but he's going to absolutely provide for you. And again, he's tier 1. He is the tier 1 quarterback. Moving on to tier 2, I'm going to be starting off with Andrew Luck, another quarterback who did really well last year. I believe he placed the 5th quarterback in fantasy football last season. And just that entire offense, again, very similar to Patrick Mahomes. The offense actually did really well last season. Indianapolis actually finished as the 6th passing offense last season. And they did really well. Again, he's got T.Y. Hilton there. Eric Ebron came on the season a little bit and actually gave him a little bit more of a target to throw to there. Again, T.Y. Hilton is a wide receiver that is very relevant in the eyes of the Indianapolis Colts. Definitely their top wide receiver, but they actually added depth this year, adding Devin Funchess, going after Paris Campbell. And then, of course, they still have Chester Rogers there, but not the biggest threat. But again, I like the depth that they added there. T.Y. Hilton, Devin Funchess, Paris Campbell. And then, of course, you have Naheem Hines there, who is really the third down back, kind of more of that scat back, similar to Tariq Cohen in the Chicago offense. But again, I really like him this year. They're going to be seeing a very similar stat line, I would say, than they saw last year. Indianapolis is an offense that passed the ball 644 times. So, he had several attempts, and I don't think that he's really going to see much regression. And actually, if you're looking at just total attempts, Indianapolis actually places 2nd in total attempts, right behind the Pittsburgh Steelers. But of course, we all know how that goes. Pittsburgh is always an offense that passes the ball a whole lot. But again, guys, I really like him a lot this year. I really think that again he's going a little bit earlier for me. But these are just guys that are going to come in and are going to be able to provide those top numbers for you. So if you're a guy that likes to get, or girl that likes to get aggressive with drafting quarterbacks early, you really can't go wrong with Patrick Mahomes or Andrew Luck or any of these next couple guys. Aaron Rodgers, I really like again this year. Aaron Rodgers is going to be my 3rd quarterback on my list. But if you just think about Aaron Rodgers, you absolutely think of consistency if he can stay healthy. He's got Devontae Adams there, Geronimo Allison, who, if you checked out my previous videos, I'm extremely high on. Marquez Valdez-Scantling. He's got a decent wide receiver core, but I mean, if we're being completely honest, we're talking about Aaron Rodgers here. So Aaron Rodgers is absolutely just the face of consistency when it comes to the quarterback position in the NFL. Over the last few years, in 2018, he finished the 6th quarterback. 2017, he fell off quite a bit, finishing as the 29th quarterback. But of course, we all know he faced a little bit of an injury, so that's only with 7 games played. But if we think about 2016, placed as the number 1 quarterback, 2015, number 7, and 2014 again was the number 1 quarterback. So again, just the face of consistency at the quarterback position that we can really think of as of right now. So again, you really can't go wrong with Aaron Rodgers, and that's the reason that he comes in as a pretty firm number 3 quarterback, in my opinion. Just consistency overall. And then Devontae Adams is another top wide receiver that, he's going to be catching a lot of passes. This is going to be an offense that throws the ball quite a bit. I know that they finished within the top 10 of total passing offense last year, and I expect to see kind of a similar role with Matt LaFleur coming in. I do think that they'll run the ball a little bit more, seeing as how the Tennessee Titans, which is where Matt LaFleur came from last season, did run the ball quite a bit. But again, you've got Aaron Rodgers there, and Aaron Rodgers is the type of quarterback who really wants to be aggressive. He wants to be the guy that has the football in his hands. So again, pretty firm at my number 3 quarterback. I like him a lot, just absolutely consistent. If you can get your hands on him, he's going to be very solid for you. However, again, similar to these other quarterbacks, going a little bit earlier for me, but if you're aggressive, absolutely go and get him. A little bit of a toss-up here with my number 4 and number 5. My number 4 is going to be Deshaun Watson. Now, Deshaun Watson actually finished in the top 4, actually as the number 4 quarterback last season. He had 505 passing attempts, which isn't what you would expect from a quarterback that placed that high. I mean, if we're taking a step back here, Patrick Mahomes had 580 attempts. Matt Ryan had 608. Ben Roethlisberger had 675. And then comes in Deshaun Watson, coming in with only 505 passing attempts last season. However, he did finish with 26 passing touchdowns. But what the other dynamic that Deshaun Watson really brings is he's a quarterback that's going to run when he has to, and he's going to be a guy that can score you touchdowns on the ground also, finishing with 5 rushing touchdowns last year, making a total of 31 touchdowns last year. So you really can't beat that. You really can't get mad with that. He's not going to give you the passing attempts or really the passing yardage that you would think from a top caliber quarterback and somebody that you should be aggressive on. But Deshaun Watson really brings it game in and game out. Of course, he has DeAndre Hopkins there, and then you're going to be bringing back Will Fuller, who's a guy who can pop the top off the defense, and then of course Kiki QT. Who I'm not sure if he's going to be in the slot this year and Will Fuller is going to be in the outside, but I'm sure we'll kind of find that out closer to the start of the season. Again, this is just my rankings for the beginning of the training camp. So, as of right now, I'd love to hear your guys' feedback. But moving forward here, guys, again, just to kind of backtrack, number 1 quarterback in Tier 1 all by himself, Patrick Mahomes. Starting off Tier 2, rolling with Andrew Luck. My number 3 quarterback is going to be Aaron Rodgers, and my number 4 is Deshaun Watson. And that actually wraps up my Tier 2. So moving on to Tier 3, and my 5th quarterback on the board is a guy who I really like this year, and probably the guy that is going right around where I'm thinking I want to be starting to obviously draft a quarterback, things like that. So this is going to be a guy that I'm going to probably be a little bit aggressive on. This is a gentleman who's got a lot of, some guys are really high on him. Some guys are really low on him for whatever reason. I just so happen to be one of the guys that's really high on him. And the guy that I'm talking about is a gentleman that finished as the number 2 quarterback last season. And I'm talking about Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan is just in a situation there where he's got probably one of the best wide receiver duos and wide receiver cores overall, leading off with Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley coming off of a great rookie season last year, and then of course Mohamed Sanu, who again just one of the best wide receiving cores as a whole that you'll see in the NFL, and it really showed quite a bit last year. So we're talking about an offense that's going to be passing the ball a lot. And it's just going to be a guy who they scheme a lot in the passing game. Devontae Freeman is going to be a guy who I'm going to be a little bit more aggressive on also. I think that you're going to see a lot of dink and dunk, but then you're also going to see a lot of bombs down the field. And Matt Ryan finished last season with 608 attempts and 4,924 yards. And it's just a situation where I don't think that we're going to be seeing any type of a step back. And one of the things that I almost forgot to mention is the Atlanta Falcons are in the NFC South, which is really a division where you really got to score a lot of points. And this is going to sound dumb because obviously you got to score a lot of points in order to win football games. But especially in this division, I mean, we're talking about a division that's got the Atlanta Falcons, the New Orleans Saints, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Carolina Panthers. So again, all of those being very, very good offenses, and offenses that if you don't score a lot of touchdowns, it's going to be very difficult for you to be even slightly competitive in that division. I mean, we're talking about Tampa Bay. We're talking about Tampa Bay being an offense last year that led the league in total passing offense. And then you also come in, Atlanta Falcons were the number 4 in total offense. But then you also see, New Orleans came in as number 12. So these are all offenses that rank very high in passing offenses last year. And I really don't think that we're going to be seeing anything different hardly this coming season. So just the division overall that they're playing in really makes me feel like Matt Ryan is going to have to be a guy that is going to have to be very successful in order for the Falcons to have another shot. He's not getting any younger, so I really think that the push is going to be coming similar to how it did last year, where he finished as the #2 quarterback. I really think it's a situation where he's going to be very aggressive. Julio Jones isn't getting any younger either, Devontae Freeman. So this is a situation where, are they almost out of gas? No. But are they getting a little bit up there in age? Yes. So I really think that Matt Ryan is just at that age right now where he can, be very, very successful. And I have, no doubt in my mind about that. So again, he finished up with a little over 600 passing attempts. I definitely think he'll be seeing a little bit similar of a stat line. And then again, most importantly, that wide receiver core, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, and Mohamed Sanu. And then to top it all off, the NFC South is a division you must score touchdowns in. So I'm really high on Matt Ryan this year. I really think that he has another top 2, maybe top 3 finish. So he's a guy that I'm being very aggressive on, and that's the reason that he's leading into my tier 3. Simply because anybody before him is going a little bit early in the draft anyways, that I would probably be staying away from those guys, seeing as how I'm the type of guy who wants to draft quarterbacks later on in the draft. So moving on, again, tier 3, leading off with Matt Ryan. But my number 6 quarterback is Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield is a guy last year who obviously was a rookie, came onto the scene, and he really didn't have many targets as far as weapons there in the wide receiver core. Really, all he had was Jarvis Landry, Callaway there that was the wide receiver that kind of came on for them. David Njoku at the tight end position. So most importantly, this year I'm a little higher on him, obviously, because Odell Beckham Jr. is in there. The change at the coaching really kind of opens my eyes, and I just think that he's the type of guy who's a winner. I was a big fan of him while he was at Texas Tech. If you don't know, I am from Texas, so I was a big fan when he was at Texas Tech, and kind of stayed with him, stayed following him, and stayed a fan even while he was in Oklahoma. So Baker Mayfield is just, again, guys, just a winner, totally overall. And I really think that he's going to be a guy that can see success this season with the wide receiver core that he's going to have with him now. And then Nick Chubb really came onto the scene again last year. So I really think they're just going to find different ways to utilize the passing game overall, especially with Freddie Kitchens there to call the plays. So really like Baker this year. Much rather have Matt Ryan though. But again, Baker's going to be a guy who can be solid. I would definitely back him up with somebody a little bit more aggressive. If you go with Baker Mayfield, I would be a little bit more aggressive as far as, picking up another quarterback in the next few rounds after that. So that kind of wraps it up for me and Baker Mayfield. But staying in tier 3, a guy that I really like a lot this year that I covered him in one of my other videos because I really think he's a little bit of a sleeper. It's going to be Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson I really like a lot this year. Again, just as much consistent as Aaron Rodgers has been. So since Russell Wilson actually came into the league, we're talking about a guy who, again, shows a lot of consistency. Last season finished as the 9th quarterback, as the QB9. But before that, he was the QB1 the season before that, QB11 the season before that, and the previous 2 seasons he was the QB3, QB8, QB10. Just a guy who is going later in the drafts. Russell Wilson is absolutely a guy. If I'm not able to get my hands on Matt Ryan, Russell Wilson is probably going to be a guy that I wait for because his ADP is getting closer to that double-digit round, and that's particularly where I like to go ahead and draft my quarterbacks. So I really like Russell Wilson this year. It's a little bit hit and miss there. I was a little skeptical and really don't know how he was able to pull it off, finishing inside of the top 10 QBs last season. But of course, we all know Seattle Seahawks is going to be an offense that really wants to run the ball. Chris Carson and Rashad Penny are going to see tons of volume there at the running back position. And then, of course, you have Tyler Lockett there who, will definitely see a little bit of success But it's just a situation where I'm not so nervous because I really don't know what the offense is going to entail as much as, in Seattle, as much as I trust the consistency and the capability that Russell Wilson brings to the table. So it's just a situation where he's going at the perfect timing for me, and that's really what drives Russell Wilson up for me. So the timing that he's going in, his average draft position right now, and then of course, I just trust him and his abilities and his consistencies that that he's shown over the years. He hasn't even seen a number 12 finish. The highest he's ever finished is QB 11, which is right around the ADP that he's going at in the 9th round. So later part of the round, later part of the draft, towards the middle a little bit. So again, Russell Wilson is just a guy that his floor is very solid, yet his ceiling is a top 5 performance possibly. But it's just a situation where maybe not top 5 just because of the news that we've received about the play calling that we're going to be seeing there in Seattle. But again, overall, just the consistency I've absolutely loved from Russell Wilson. So that's the reason that he's ranking so high up in my quarterback ranking as the number 7 quarterback. So moving on, Drew Brees, again, guys, a very consistent quarterback. Also in the NFC South, like I mentioned with Matt Ryan. Michael Thomas is there, to see all of the targets that they'll be seeing. So that just really kind of goes without say. Drew Brees finishing in the top 10, and he's going to be absolutely my number 8 quarterback. But last season, Drew Brees actually finished the 8th quarterback last season. So you really can't go wrong. You really can't go wrong there. And then, of course, his ADP where he's going at right now, if you can get your hands on him, that's going to be the perfect time, in my opinion, similar to where I draft my quarterback. So I'd like to have my fair share of Drew Brees. I just think, again, the conference that they're playing in, is going to be... you got to score a lot of touchdowns again, guys. So Alvin Kamara being there, I just really like him. Again, Drew Brees, just as consistent as they come at the quarterback position. Moving forward, another guy that I really like that I covered in one of my other videos is Jameis Winston. He's going to be a guy that's going to be seeing a lot of attempts. I really like the wide receiver core that they have there in Tampa Bay. Also, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and then of course they have O.J. Howard there at the tight end position. So a very good receiving core there in Tampa Bay. And then of course the addition of Bruce Arians. I really don't think that this offense is going to see a stat line where they see a step back in passing attempts. Again, if you didn't hear me earlier, Tampa Bay did finish as the number 1 passing offense last season. Will they see another number 1 performance? Maybe not. That's always kind of hard to say. But they're definitely going to be up there. Jameis Winston is going to have his attempts. As long as he can stay away from the crazy turnovers, as long as he can keep his head on straight, we all know he's kind of a guy that is a little bit out there. If you saw the whole eat a W thing, that shit was just weird to me. But anyways, I like him a lot this year. I really think that the chips are kind of all on the table for him. And I really think that this is a season for him where he's really got to step up, or it might be kind of too late and out the gate for Jameis Winston this season. But do I think he can do it? Absolutely. And I go into a little bit more in the video that I posted just the other day, which I'll go ahead and link for you here. But moving on, guys, does that wrap up my... Yep, that wraps up my tier 3. So just to go back over it, my tier 3 and my number 5 quarterback is going to be Matt Ryan. My number 6 quarterback is Baker Mayfield. Number 7, Russell Wilson. Number 8, Drew Brees. And number 9, wrapping it up with Jameis Winston in the tier 3. So moving on here, tier 4 and my number 10 quarterback at the start of training camp is going to be Jared Goff. We all saw the electrifying offense for the Los Angeles Rams last season. Even after Jared Goff's favorite wide receiver in Cooper Kupp went down, we still saw the offense flourish. We saw Todd Gurley go off even in the passing game, and then we also saw Brandon Cooks and Robert Woods. It's just a situation where just the offense under Sean McVay there, very similar to how I feel about Patrick Mahomes. Just think Sean McVay can produce Jared Goff into another top performance this season. So it's just a situation where I like him, and I like the offense, and I like the what the offense brings to the table underneath Sean McVay. He finished as the number 7 quarterback last year and the number 12 quarterback the year before that. So showing some signs of consistency. We haven't seen enough of him yet to know if he's as consistent as Russell Wilson, if he's as consistent as Aaron Rodgers. But nonetheless, showing some signs of consistency. And I just really like the offense overall, which is the reason why he comes in as my number 10 quarterback on the list for the start of training camp. Moving on to my number 11 quarterback. I really like Cam Newton a lot this year. I know a lot of people are extremely nervous coming off of the shoulder injury, but it's a situation where he was having a hell of a season last year before he actually went down. After he went down, I believe the Carolina Panthers only won 1 game, so that just goes to show how much Cam Newton brings to the table. He also brings in the dynamic of being able to run the ball. He's got a couple of really young, showing to be very talented wide receivers in DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel, and then he's got the absolute target monster in Christian McCaffrey. He'll see Greg Olsen back, so it's just a situation where, again, guys, he just kind of brings a lot of dynamics to the offense that I really think that is what you're going to be looking for. And he's going kind of right around that perfect time, again, that I really like to start drafting my quarterbacks. And he's been able to show some consistency, which I absolutely look for at the quarterback position. I'm not saying that I want to draft a guy. If I can draft a guy in the middle part of the draft, and he ends up finishing as a top 5, awesome. That works out great for me. I'm not mad about it, but I'm just looking for a guy that's going to show me some consistency, a guy that can get me inside of a top 10 performance over the year, and just can show some consistency throughout the entire season. So this is barring injury on Cam Newton. If he can stay healthy, I really like him this year. Again, he's shown some signs of consistencies over the years, finishing as the number 12 quarterback last season. And again, guys, this is with him being injured. Number 2 quarterback the season before that. Number 17 quarterback. So he's been able to show some consistency, and again, most importantly, that's one of the things and one of the important qualities that I look for when I'm looking into the quarterback position. So again, Cam Newton being my 11th quarterback on the board, followed by my number 12 quarterback, Dak Prescott, which I've covered him in a few of my videos before, but a guy that I really like, a guy that has been slept on in the past. He's kind of creeping up as one of the top fantasy quarterbacks, coming into this season. He's finished as a top 10 quarterback every season that he's been in the league, and I really think right now, I'm a huge Dallas Cowboy fan, so I really like Dak Prescott a lot, just in favoring of the Cowboys, but at the same time, I really like him a lot, looking at it as a fantasy standpoint and giving you guys as much of the info and honest opinion as I can. So Dak Prescott is a guy that, again, has finished in the top 10 in the seasons that he's actually been in the NFL, and I really think that he's coming into this season with one of the best receiving corps that he's had since he's been in the league. We saw the things that Amari Cooper did last year. Michael Gallup also was a wide receiver that showed really good signs, and a guy that I'm pretty high on this year. And then, of course, the addition of Randall Cobb there. I don't think Jason Witten coming back really makes a huge difference, but Dak Prescott is another guy similar to Cam Newton and a couple of the other guys that will actually use their legs, get you some yardage, score you some touchdowns, but you also see it in the passing game also. There's a little bit of a change in the play calling for the Dallas Cowboys this season, but I don't really think that it's anything that we should be cautious about or anything. I think it's just a similar style of play that he's going to be used to, and I'm really excited to see what he brings to the table this year. So following right behind him is my QB 13. Probably going to be catching a little bit of smoke off this one, and I wish I didn't have to say it, but Carson Wentz. The only reason that I've got him so low is he's got to start showing me some signs of being completely healthy. I'd love to see him play a couple of snaps in the preseason games that are going to be coming up right around the corner, but just another guy that kind of brings it in both dynamics, running the ball, passing the ball. Alshon Jeffrey being there, and then of course the addition of Deshaun Jackson, who's another guy that can pop the top off the defense. And just overall, just the guy that brings it. Zach Ertz, one of his favorite targets, and one of the top tight ends that we'll see this season. I'm pretty sure of it. But Carson Wentz, again, pretty firm there as my QB 13, but he's got to show me that he can stay healthy. I've seen a few videos, and he's looking good. He's looking really good, and I'll be rooting him on a little bit. Just because I like that he come from a small college and everything, so that's always pretty cool, and I don't ever want to see anybody do bad. But Carson Wentz got to show me some signs that that he can stay healthy, period, and that he is healthy coming into this season. So that's the only reason that I have him so low there. Followed up as my QB 14. It's going to be Phillip Rivers, again, another guy who's been very consistent in his time in the NFL. Got a couple of really good wide receivers there in Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, who I went over in one of my other videos, who I'm really high on this year. The only other thing is Melvin Gordon being gone. I really think that kind of changes a little bit of their play calling a little bit, but at the same time, I can see it not changing it. They've got Justin Jackson there to run the ball, to be a little bit more of that muscle, and then they've got Austin Eckler there to be a little bit more of that passing back. However, Melvin Gordon just brought both of those dimensions: power, speed, and he could catch the ball out of the backfield. But Phillip Rivers is getting up there a little bit in age, and it's just a different time, if we're being completely honest, and not only in the NFL in actual football, but also in fantasy football also. I really like the quarterbacks that can bring you multiple dynamics, like running the ball, rushing for touchdowns, and then giving me, obviously, passing touchdowns. But Phillip Rivers is more of that pocket passer, similar to Tom Brady, Matt Ryan, and just a couple of those older guys. Nothing wrong with that. Still very useful. Can still be very successful, and not only in, again, regular football, but fantasy football also. Phillip Rivers, again, just a face of consistency. Finished as the number 11 quarterback last year. The number 8 quarterback in 2017. In 2016, he finished as the 14 quarterback, and in 2015 he finished as the number 12 quarterback. So based on where he's going right now, he's got a little bit of a floor on him that's pretty solid. So where he's going based on his ADP right now, he's going to be very solid, but at the same time he also has the ceiling to be able to be in that top 10 conversation, or that 11, 12 conversation. So that's the reason that I've got him so high up on my board, again at the QB 14. Followed up by my number 15 quarterback, Kirk Cousins, a guy that I had last year that I really like a lot coming into this season. Why he's catching the shade that he's catching this year, and falling down the list as far as quarterbacks go. We're talking about a guy who's got one of the best wide receiver duos there in Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen. So it's just a situation where, again, he's catching a little bit more shade than I would expect. He was a guy that went as a late round, late part of the draft QB last year. If you were able to kind of pick him up towards the middle to late rounds, he finished as the QB 13 for you. Prior to that, I know this was in Washington, so totally different system, but he did finish as the QB 6 there. So why he's catching the shade that he's catching, he's coming actually off one of the best seasons that he's seen statistically. So still very solid on him. If I can pick up Kirk Cousins as my QB2, I'm totally okay with that. I see no problem with it. So I'm just gonna kind of list off a few of them here since we're kind of past the. Actually, let me do one more. Ben Roethlisberger, another guy that the only reason I've got him so low is we all know the Pittsburgh Steelers really pass the ball a lot. But it's just a situation with Antonio Brown being gone, Juju Smith-Schuster being the #1 wide receiver now. Kind of how that offense is going to play out, and that's the reason Ben Roethlisberger has fallen down for me. Again, he's a quarterback that only passes through the pocket. You don't see him really scrambling around much, so you're not going to get the dynamic of rushing touchdowns, things like that. So just the play style that I really like to stay away from. But can he be a guy that kind of comes back and has another top performance like he did last season? We're just going to have to wait and see, guys. As of right now, James Washington is the the #2 wide receiver there. Vance McDonald at the tight end position. So he's got a few weapons there. Just a situation where we're going to have to wait and see where this offense plays out. So let me just kind of bust off these last few for you. I only did the top 25 quarterback. So just to kind of recap, tier 1, tier by himself, Patrick Mahomes. Tier 2, and starting with my #2 quarterback, Andrew Luck. #3, Aaron Rodgers. 4, Deshaun Watson. And that's the end of my tier 2. Tier 3 and my #5 quarterback is Matt Ryan. 6, Baker Mayfield. 7, Russell Wilson. 8, Drew Brees. And 9, Jameis Winston. And then as my top, at the 10 spot, I've got Jared Goff starting off with my tier 4. And then 11, I've got Cam Newton. 12, Dak Prescott. 13, Carson Wentz. 14, Phillip Rivers, and 15, Kirk Cousins. 16, Ben Roethlisberger. So just to kind of wrap up tier 5, some quarterbacks that you can pick up really late. Kyler Murray, I'm probably going to be staying away from, but I do like him a little bit more than Tom Brady, Jimmy Garoppolo, pocket passers again, guys. But a guy that I really like, Mitch Trubisky, I think is a guy who is a very deep sleeper, going at very late in mock drafts from what I've seen. I haven't actually been in any official drafts to start the season, but I really like Mitch Trubisky this year. Josh Allen is a guy that I really like also, and guys, you could probably see the trend that I'm going at here, but I really like guys that are going to be able to give me some passing touchdowns, but also give me some rushing yards and rushing touchdowns at the end of the day also. So again, guys, this is just the start of training camp. QB rankings. These are obviously going to change. I'll absolutely be coming out with another one at the start of the season. I just kind of wanted to give you guys an idea of what I'm thinking going right now. I'd absolutely love to hear y'all's feedback, guys. Who do you like? Who do you think should be higher? Who do you think should be lower? Let me know down below. Thank you guys so much for coming by and checking out another video. I know it ran a little bit longer than I typically like, but at the same time, there was a lot of information that I wanted to go over with you guys. There's a lot of really good quarterbacks this year, guys that are going later in the drafts that can absolutely come up and give you a solid performance this fantasy football season. But again, guys, let me know your opinions down below. Thank you so much for coming by and checking out a video. Let your friends know, let your family know. I'm going to be dropping as many videos as I can leading up to the start of the season. So to give you as many tips as I can to allow you to draft the best fantasy football team that you can. Of course, that lays the foundation down for you, so you really can't sleep on the draft, but the season is won off the waiver wire and off trade and things of that sort. So you got to make sure that you play your cards right, guys, and I'm here to be the guy to help you out. Again, my name is Lawrence, aka Law, and this is a channel that I call The Catch, where I'm going to be giving you guys fantasy tips to help you get dubs this fantasy football season. Thank you guys so much again. Peace.